Okay, so in phonetic transcription, there's a lot of things that are a matter of style and difference. And one thing that's come up recently that I kind of wanted to just discuss a little bit and see what's behind these differences is the difference between writing affricates without that little tie bar over top and with the little tie bar over top. And it seems like it'd be a straightforward thing. So I'm going to present the arguments for one and the arguments for the other, right? So without the tie bar, we know that these are two different sounds. When I say a chew or something like that, that ch is two things, right? I'm doing a plosive, sometimes called a stop, right? T, and I'm doing a sh, t, sh, right? So there's two different things happening. So it makes sense to keep them separate. And this is one of the reasons why the IPA doesn't have those as a kind of fused symbol in the past. And even now, sometimes you see the T and the sh symbol are actually attached to each other. And we don't do that in the IPA for things that actually are a sequence of two distinct things. We see that for affricates, and we also see it for diphthongs, for example. Okay, so much for them being two different things. But why would you put that tie bar over top? The International Phonetic Alphabet has a little chunk in the other symbols section where it says affricates and double articulations can be represented by two symbols joined by a tie bar, if necessary. What makes it necessary? What is that tie bar adding? Well, for that, I want to point out, first of all, some languages like English, they treat the ch and other affricates like j, they treat an affricate as a single sound. Phonologically, it patterns as a single sound when you're combining it with other sounds. But the IPA, well, people will argue about this, but the IPA isn't primarily meant to just depict phonological facts. It's meant to depict phonetic facts. Where's the boundary line for that? That's a matter for another discussion. That's not what we're talking about here. Yes, there is some blurriness, but if something is primarily just about the phonology, then it doesn't necessarily belong in there. But there's something actually phonetic here, and for that, I want to go to a recording. There's some sample recording that an anonymous speaker recently contributed. It's three words, and they've been put in a frame sentence just so that we have sounds on either side of the sound that we're interested in. So here's the three sentences. This is a tip. This is a ship. This is a chip. Okay, so you can hear in the first one we have just a word with just the t. The second one we have a word with just the sh. And in the third one we have the ch. So let's zoom in. I'm going to zoom in right here. Zoomy zoom. The tip. So this is and then here's our t sound, and then another vowel. Whether or not you understand the acoustics, you can see that there's some regular vibrations happening here in some kind of complex pattern. That's a vowel, another vowel here, and there's some other stuff happening here. This is basically the T closure plus the aspiration. Okay, and if I look at the top, that lasts about 128 milliseconds. And this is a typical T sound at the beginning of a word, like tip. Now, we go to the next one, the ship. So again, we have some vowel here, and in this case, this span here, with all this fuzziness, that's the sh sound. And this lasts 140, almost 143 milliseconds. So almost the same as the T, maybe a slight bit longer. What is happening here? Now, what do we expect? Well, if the t and the sh are just being set next to each other and nothing else is happening, we might expect a sound that's about 250, 260 milliseconds long, because that's the sum of the t duration and the sh duration. If we get something different, then we'll have to think about it differently, right? So what's happening here? Let's zoom in. Listen to it. So here's We see the vowel before, the vowel after, and this is the t, sh, the t bit and the sh bit. How long is that? That's 134 milliseconds almost, which happens to fall right between the 128 and 143 milliseconds that we found for the t and the sh. The exact values are going to vary from time to time. If we looked over a whole bunch of instances, these might all wash out to basically the same. They're all around 130, 140 milliseconds long. So when we put the t and the sh together in an affricate, they take the same amount of time as the t does alone or as the sh does alone. And so that's one of the things that the tie bar can communicate, is that it's not just a t followed by a sh, it's a ch. It's that, they're two distinct articulatory bits. You have two symbols, but we're tying them together. We're kind of packing them into one consonant worth of space. So that's the main thing that I wanted to say. There, if you're interested in that kind of fine detail, like, hey, we're compressing these things, you want to put the tie bar on. If that's completely irrelevant to you and you don't want to hunt through the IPA keyboard business to get that tie bar, then maybe just put the t and the sh. But if you do want to do that, why don't I show you how to do that? Here is an IPA keyboard. This is one I like, the Type It IPA full keyboard. And down here is my space where the symbol is showing up. I'm going to type a T, and then here's the tie bar here, and then I'm going to type the sh, and there we go. I have the ch sequence there. I can put a bracket there. I could go on to finish my word out or whatever I want. Okay, so it's not that hard. I'll have a link to that IPA keyboard in the notes, the description of this video. So there's affricates, and there's why they look a little different, and why some people might go one way, some people might go the other way when they're doing those transcriptions. And I hope that helps.